We have all watched someone open the door to a better life, hesitate at the threshold, and then slowly pull the door shut. This hesitation follows a sophisticated internal logic. The brain values predictability over safety, treating an established routine as a survival mechanism, even when that routine is objectively painful. This is the state of the known hell. It is an environment of predictable misery where the variables are constant and the daily suffering is a known quantity. We contrast this with the unknown heaven, the goal of sobriety, the new career, or the healthy relationship we want. While these are positive, they are also unmapped, which makes them feel like a source of potential failure and risk. This resistance to change is a structural problem in the psyche's risk assessment hardware. The mind simply calculates that guaranteed pain is safer than the uncertainty of an unproven success. Lasting change remains elusive as long as this internal architecture continues to prioritize the safety of predictable misery over the perceived threat of unknown potential. To address this, we have to look at the ego. In popular culture, the ego is a villain to be destroyed, but in reality, it is a vital psychological subsystem. Think of the ego as an internal radar. Its healthy role is threat detection, social navigation, and maintaining the basic boundaries of who you are. A system failure occurs when this peripheral advisor assumes command of the entire human organism, displacing the central self. This hijacked architecture creates a fatal processing error. It fuses external outcomes with internal identity. Under a master ego, a simple mistake is no longer a bad result. It is interpreted as a terminal existential threat to the person's very being. A decentered mind sees the unknown heaven as an experiment. It attempts an action, gathers data, and adjusts for the next try. But the master ego views that same experiment as a mortal danger. Since identity is tied to outcome, failing at the new goal would mean the psychological death of the self. To prevent this death, the ego triggers intentional self-sabotage, forcing a retreat into the familiar routine before a real failure can occur. This defensive posture requires a rigid social shield. The ego constructs a persona, a mask designed to guarantee social survival and protect against rejection. To keep that mask convincing, the ego must suppress any messy emotion or inconvenient truth that contradicts the persona. These rejected parts accumulate in the unconscious as the shadow, fueling a sense of internal chaos. Maintaining this elaborate defense is emotionally exhausting. It leads to isolation and a total paralysis when faced with important choices. In this state of exhaustion, the predictable pain of the known hell begins to feel like a relieving safe harbor. Self-sabotage is the master ego's most effective tool for protecting a fragile identity, successfully trapping the organism in a cycle of predictable suffering. Moral Reconation Therapy addresses this structural error through decentering, rebalancing the ego's role relative to the rest of the mind. In the genie in the bottle method, you contain the ego but never handed the wheel. With report versus decide, the ego reports its fears, but the true self retains sole authority to decide the next move. This decoupling ensures that I failed no longer entails I am a failure. Once outcome and identity are separated, the ego loses its power to paralyze you with fear. Because years of ego-driven defense create massive blind spots, we need external calibration. This is the concept of borrowed sight. We discover ourselves through the eyes of others, accepting a confidence loan from a trusted witness who can see our true capacity for growth. This MRT action plan demonstrates how we apply that borrowed sight. By identifying the problem and asking others for input, we transform uncontrollable danger into prepared risk. With the ego decentered, we adopt a mindset of again try, not again same. Failure is treated purely as relational data to be reviewed and used for the next attempt. When perfection is no longer the requirement for existence, the mind stops fighting change. You finally trade the predictable misery of the known hell for the meaningful adventure of the unknown heaven.